would have a toothache or a headache, and I would have a toothache or a headache.
Yeah.
And then finally, a couple years in, when I was about 8, I went, what is this? And I
Yeah.
finally raised my hand and I said, does anybody have a toothache? You know, and asked the teacher.
Yeah.
And the teacher said, does anybody have a toothache? And the girl behind me was saying, yeah, I have one.
You get to discover, what do I already know? What as a soul have I already experienced, and all of the wisdom I've already attained. And as you come into that body, into that awareness here in the physical, you get to bring all that information with you and kind of rediscover it.
And me starting out sitting on my front porch when I was 4 years old and just talking to spirit, talking to God. Animals would come, people would come. When I was about 5, my grandfather came, Grandpa Earl. He had passed, and he kind of come walking up to the house like, okay, we're going to come in and see you guys.
Hello and welcome to the Higher Vibe. I'm your host, Jean Roorda. I'm having conversations with psychic friends, and today I have with me Dr. Gail Smith. She's a clairvoyant healer and teacher, astrologer, and author. She published her book in 2014 called Your Soul's Toolkit for Living a Miraculous Life. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hello, Gail. It's so good to see you.
Good to see
Welcome.
you too. Thank you.
Gail, you are, amongst many things, a metaphysical minister, clairvoyant healer, and teacher, as well as just in your own spiritual journey and path. You discovered early on that you are also quite an empath and really deeply feel other people's energy. And I would imagine that that awareness of how deeply you feel other people's energy was part of what initiated your spiritual path, got your attention.
Yes.
So I'd love to hear more about how that started for you, when you first discovered how psychically sensitive you are and how that supported you in getting started on your spiritual journey this lifetime.
It's been a wild ride. But yeah, I was thinking about it and I thought, well, it actually started with my mom, the spirit guide coming to her when she had been trying to get pregnant for 2.5 years. And her guide came to her bedside and said, you're going to have a daughter. And she said, how can that happen? 2 generations we haven't had any girls, so she didn't, that wouldn't be possible. And then proceeded to tell her all about who I was going to be, that I was psychic and sensitive, and I'm going to learn a lot from her. She's going to learn a lot from me, a lot of sharing kind of thing. And so it's been interesting because that's been exactly what happened, in her sharing that and me starting out sitting on my front porch when I was 4 years old and just talking to spirit, talking to God. Animals would come, people would come. When I was about 5, my grandfather came, Grandpa Earl, and he had passed. And he kind of come walking up to the house like, okay, we're going to come in and see you guys, I was like, how are you, okay. I didn't understand at 5. I didn't get it, And he sat down and started telling me, no, I passed to the other side, but I'm in a different place, but I can come and visit you and see you and you're going to be fine. And, all that reassuring. So it kind of, maybe not at that moment, but a few years later, I went, oh, all of those people that were coming, all of those animals and, guides and teachers and everything, they were all in spirit. It was almost like I didn't even realize it at the time. They just looked like everybody else, to me.
It's so seamless. I think when you're little, there's not so much of a border or a boundary or a separation between physical and spiritual. It's all just normal and right there.
Yeah.
And you're communicating.
Like fact, like this is fact.
When your mom's guide told her about you coming, did she receive that? Was that normal for her, or was that shocking, or how did she receive that?
Her grandfather, Grandpa George, was always one of her guides as she was growing up. My mother and my grandmother are very intuitive as well. And so she would asked Grandpa George for help and guidance and, at different points in time. So she was familiar,
Yeah, it
The
was
thing
familiar
that
to her.
wasn't familiar is she said that she came and was standing by her bedside in polka dot pajamas. And she said, she started laughing, like, why? What are you doing? Why are you in polka dot pajamas?
Well, I
And it
love
was
the amusement of the guy.
fun.
Show
Yeah.
up in polka dots. It gets your attention,
Yeah, keeping little amusement there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but it's interesting because she had a lot of those experiences, and growing up I was fortunate enough to be, part of
Yeah.
her doing things for me, like bringing me a dress when I was in 7th grade and saying, "Here, you need to wear this tonight for the dance on Friday." And I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Just wear it. Have fun, just wear it."
Yeah.
And, I ended up winning the dance contest with my boyfriend at the
Wow.
7th grade.
Yeah.
Stuff like
Yeah.
that, things that would happen, like
Right.
she would
Just
do,
being intuitive was
yeah,
normal and
yeah,
natural
what
for
does
your
she need,
family. Yeah.
what,
So
yeah,
there didn't need to be a why. It was just, I
no,
just know you need to wear this dress.
exactly, exactly. So
Oh,
it was a very interesting upbringing, being sensitive to what was going on all the time, like in school as I got older, that whole thing of being very what's going on, empathic, feeling
yeah.
everybody in the
Very
room.
empathic. Yeah.
Somebody would have a toothache or a headache, and I would have a toothache or a headache.
Yeah.
And then finally, a couple years in, when I was about 8, I went, "What is this?" And I
Yeah.
finally raised my hand and I said, "Does anybody have a toothache?" And asked the teacher.
Yeah.
And the teacher said, "Does anybody have a toothache?" And the girl behind me was saying, "Yeah, I have one." And
Wow.
almost instantaneously, as soon as she said she had one, my pain was gone.
So just knowing that it wasn't yours helped you let go of it.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That was when you were 8. Oh, I didn't
yeah,
realize you were so young. So you really became aware at quite a young age that your level of empathy was like on that physical, deep, you could really feel everyone's pain quite literally. But
yeah,
being able to recognize that at such a young age is so helpful because I think about how many people have that level of empathy or tuning in on that physical level to other people's pain, other people's emotions, other people's thoughts. But if they don't realize it, it can get quite messy and confusing and painful in your body, right? Imagine if every time you felt someone's toothache or stomach ache or pain here or there, you weren't letting it go. Yeah, that would take you down. Take you
yeah,
out.
exactly. Growing up in a kind of extremely volatile household with my dad and stuff, that it was hard, because you were always, when's the next shoe gonna drop? What's gonna happen next? So your senses are just like bing
Yeah,
all the time. How is this gonna happen and what are we gonna do?
right.
So it was like an education. My family was a wonderful education for me
Yes.
in that way.
And isn't
First,
that
I think,
interesting how we do as souls? We pick the family that we can
yeah,
learn the most about ourselves, our own abilities, who we are as healers, and of course, any karmic relationships we get to
that,
disentangle but we pick these scenarios quite specifically to learn from. And it is quite common for a lot of souls to develop a very fine-tuned level of empathy, clairsentience at a young age in those volatile households because it's just how we learn to navigate and be safe in that environment. So we know, okay, it's safe to be around this person right now. Oh, now it's not. Time to
like,
go run in the woods and play by myself. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Always being very aware in the present moment. It's that kind of a funny kind of gift.
yeah,
And later, of course, in life, you realize how much, trance mediumship is involved
right.
with the people and how the energy is changing and shifting and they're thrown out of their body and other energies
Other
come in
energies
and,
are coming
you
in.
know,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was gonna say, that's what you mean by volatile, right? So volatile meaning like you just never know when someone's gonna become someone else, right? When
Yeah.
who you know as your dad is no longer there, and this other being, this other energy that maybe is more violent or angry, that energy jumps in.
Yes. Yeah.
And that can be
But
quite
the
scary.
interesting thing about it is you really get good at knowing, oh, there they are.
Yeah.
There's the new person.
Yeah.
There's, there's the new energy. Let's get out of here or grab the
Yeah.
keys or what, it's kind of,
Yeah.
and it took me a long time. My mom was already figuring it out, as I was a little kid.
Yeah.
She kind of figured it out finally too. And would, it's like a different person, like you were talking to a totally different
Yeah.
person. So it was a good education, I guess is a way to say
Yeah.
it, about handling it and recognizing it. But it took me a while as my life went on
Yeah.
to get some of the tools that I needed to really deal with it, and be able to release the energy and
Yeah.
not always being in that state of, oh, I have to heal it. I have to
Right.
fix it. I have to,
Yes.
be in that space.
Yeah, that's such an important, as we grow older and get to know our own selves as healers, it's such an important healing process to let go of that learned responsibility. When we were younger, we became responsible for that volatility just to keep ourselves safe. It's like a survival mechanism. And then as we get older, it's like, oh, I don't have to be responsible for all of that volatility around me. I can just have my space and be safe and give others that space to be. But that is part of the healing process for all of the sensitive souls, especially those that grow up in those learning environments, right? That are more volatile. Yes. And
yeah,
there is a lot to recover from, because for some folks it can be quite traumatic, of course, especially when we take personally some of the energy that those different beings coming through the volatile person space. If we take that energy personally, if we take it to heart, which children often do, then there can be quite a healing journey to come. But it sounds like
yes.
you stayed very present. I'm seeing you just like watching all of that and learning from it as a being. Whereas, some beings just kind of check out, like, this is a little too much and I'm gonna hit the road. And operate from quite outside your body, and they might not even remember much of their childhood. But it sounds like you were really studying it, and being very present and watching the energy and noticing.
Well, it's interesting because when they got separated, my parents, when they got separated, then it was like a time of, like I could take a breath, oh, okay. And I did hang out more out of my head, above my head a little bit, and having harder time in learning and, that kind of stuff. But that lasted a couple of years. It wasn't forever, which was good. But we started studying everything. We went to hypnosis and we did healing classes together and we did psychic development. We went and saw Kenny Kingston, and then he wanted me to do some spot readings in his gatherings. So I did that for a while. All these different things, that we did and we learned, and healing touch, hands-on healing. We did so many things together, and my mom and my brother learned TM, transcendental meditation, right? And I was only 15. I couldn't do it. They wouldn't let you until you were 16. Oh, wow. And I went, okay, that's not fair.
You can drive and you can transcendentally meditate.
So I was like, okay, I'll do it myself. So I started meditating when I was 15.
That's great.
And on my own, and had created my own mantra and all that stuff. It's just like, I'm going to do it anyway.
And part of you already knew, like, I know how to do this. I know how to meditate. Yeah, exactly. That's wonderful.
Exactly. Well, the funny thing about the knowing already is I always use that analogy of, we're all have this giant mansion that we're walking around in as we're born. And we get to go and open all the doors. And, I studied Buddhism for 7 years. I went in there, did that for a couple of years, closed the door, went in this door, and from astrology and numerology, all that stuff, closed that door. It's almost like just touching into all the doors in the mansion. So you remember from past lives. And it's like you remember the information, you remember oh yeah, that's what, what it's about. That's what that life was about. or doing the healing and all the different kinds of healing there is, all the different modalities.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like then stepping back and going, wow, the whole house is me and the whole house is God.
Yeah.
You know, nothing is separated out, you know. That was just reassuring. And that's what my childhood felt like.
Yeah.
Is we were studying all these different things and it was so much fun, but it was all a reminder. It was like walking through my house and opening the doors and spending some time there.
I love that.
You know?
I love that way of looking at it. Like when you're born, when you incarnate, you have this mansion. I love it. This huge, enormous, glorious house with all these different rooms, and you get to discover, what do I already know? What as a soul have I already experienced, and all of the wisdom I've already attained. And as you come into that body, into that awareness here in the physical, you get to bring all that information with you and kind of rediscover it. Like, oh yeah, I know that. Yeah. Meditation. That's very familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like, all you have to do is read a book. And sometimes it's like, no, you're going to study a certain kind of practice for 2 years.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like when I learned Buddhism, I practiced Buddhism for 7 years. It's kind of like a practice, you know, and go, okay, I did that. I've done this many lifetimes. I don't need it in this lifetime in that same way, you know what I mean? In a different
Just kind of reintegrate that information in present time. And then, okay, what else can I discover that I already know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was 8, my mom and I, we went to Chinatown in LA because we lived in South Pasadena, so we're close by. And there's a lady there that's been there forever, or she was up to that point when I was 8.
Yeah.
And she read palms. Yeah. And she was the first person I ever got a reading from.
Oh.
You know, palm reading. And and it was so much fun. She told me a lot of the same things that my mom's spirit guide told her about.
So very validating.
And
for your mom.
Yes, very validating. Yeah. But it was so funny because, you know, after her doing this and so gentle, so kind, but you could just see that it was just a tool for her, like for all of us. Tarot, hands, you know, even handwriting analysis.
There's so many modalities for bringing that intuitive information through.
Like everything is just, it's just letting it come through. And I was watching her look at me and I was watching her aura and it was changing into all these different kind of colors and everything. And it was so pretty. And I could see the beings behind her, like her guides and teachers that were kind of coming through her. And so her holding my hand was not what she was doing. I could tell that wasn't really what she was doing, although she probably knows all about it. But it was like she was holding the hand to get a lot of the information. So that was so encouraging at that point. It was like, oh, there's so many things we can do, you know, so many.
There's so many ways that we can, there's so many forms that this intuitive process can take. I find that true.
When did you have your first reading?
That's so cool. You got your first reading at 8.
When did you have your first reading?
I think it was probably like 23 or something. Yeah. Definitely not until my 20s. I grew up in a very different environment that wasn't validating of intuitive awareness. It was more religious and extremely intellectual. And so even though everybody was very intuitive and psychic, it was all like, oh, but that's not real. Or, you know, it was sort of sectioned off and not validated, you know, even when it was happening. And so I didn't have an opportunity to communicate with anyone about my awareness, really. And if I did, I learned very quickly, like, nobody can relate. And, you know, I think I'm a little crazy. So I'll just keep it to myself for a while.
Yeah, that's most of my family too.
So it's so fun.
At least one person.
You know, to hear these stories of, wow, even at a young age, that awareness was validated. And I love seeing, you know, the difference that can make in a soul's life of just coming up with that validation and that it's normal, right? It's not this weird woo-woo thing. And it's certainly not like evil or scary because, you know, sometimes those are the pictures that some folks are given in certain religious environments if the intuitive information is considered scary or, you know, it's rather than it being from God, it's sometimes seen as being from the devil or from, you know, which is kind of sad. It's like, actually, this is intuition
exactly.
from within, from spirit within. So yeah, to just see that in your soul's trajectory, that was in this lifetime, that was so supported and validated. There's just more space for it to be. You don't have to then in your 20s like create space for yourself. In my 20s, it was like, okay, I gotta create space for this part of me that I've had to keep separate or out there or not incarnated yet. That part of me had to wait a little while to fully incarnate.
Yeah, but I see that too because I was 19 when I took my first psychic development class with Lucretia Allenson, who was a life reader. And she taught all kinds of tools like grounding and clearing your energy and stuff. It wasn't the same tools I learned from Michael and Raphael Tamura years later, but it was similar to something to do to get rid of it. But it's also training of reading, doing readings and doing that, and then going into college, being ordained first because I studied with that for 3 years. But then in college at San Diego State University, we had a big house, and I would teach meditation classes, psychic development classes, do readings and stuff out of our house. I had 5 roommates. That's why I'm saying out of our house. But it was so fun because it created a whole community of people that had that like-minded consciousness that we could all share and grow from and learn from, and incredible professors in religious and science and psychology classes and philosophy classes that I was taking that we would get, a few more of our roommates would get involved in. So it was just a really amazing time to tune into that and really come forward in it, to be a part of it like that.
And I see you as like a pioneer in that, because that was a time where that was probably a little bit less common or popular, like we've seen over the years. Now there's so much more space and permission and interest, and so many souls are needing and wanting that information about accessing their own intuitive awareness. But it didn't used to be like that. It was a little more just certain pockets and certain circles of people, right? Not as many. Most people were like, why would I want to do that? What even is that? Just
well, it was like it was nice because there was a spiritual community in San Diego at the time, and this was the mid 70s, early 70s. So it was that time frame where people were looking at things, and there were a lot of psychic fairs around and craft fairs that there was combination of and that you could go to. And so I think that was also adding to it, because we put it out there to our friends and other students, and it got to be 30 people every time we did it every week. So it was like, what? It was like, we thought like we'd have like 10 or whatever. Yeah. It was mashed in everybody in our living room.
Hungry for it then too. So that's amazing.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
So you've been teaching for so long, since at quite a young age you started already. So then when did you develop an interest or an inspiration for writing your book? How did that come about? Did you have any spirit guides you were working with, or that were nudging you like
my whole life? Ding, ding, ding. Are you going to write? What are you going to write? I've been hearing that. Astrologically, I've been hearing it forever as well, because of my chart having so much Mercury in my chart. But it's so funny because I taught at Intuitive Insights for about 14 years, and then I was co-director there for 7 years.
And that's a psychic institute in San Diego? Intuitive Insights.
Yeah, Clairvoyant School. Yeah, by Vessel Reinhardt. And she created a beautiful book writing, write your book class. So it really helped me get more of it on a page. Up to that point, it hadn't been as much. But I knew I wanted to share some of the really important tools and experiences that had really changed me, learning to ground and blow roses and those kind of things really helped. And the whole thing about, what do you want? What are you creating? And learning how to really manifest the abundance that you're wanting to create. So those were all the things that were encouraging me. And I was like, do I make it big? Do I make it small? And it was like, just do it, just get out there and
Yay.
share and create it. And that's what I did. And Michael Turmero was so nice to do the forward
Yeah.
in it and was so encouraging because I was trying to
Yeah.
get it finished, right? And then he wanted me to be able to sell it at one of his meetings, and it worked out great that I could do
Wonderful.
that. But it was that thing of going, okay, now I wrote this one, now I have like 5
Right.
more.
You're
There's
just
just
getting started.
so many.
Yeah.
There's so many things that you feel like you want to write
Yeah.
about and get
Because you have
more,
so
take one or
much
two things
so much
in depth.
wisdom in that mansion of yours. Yeah. And maybe you only opened
It's like you
one
want
of
to
the
share.
doors in that book, and now you have many, many more to write about.
So I am working on a
Nice.
second one, and I've been writing my blog, weekly blog, and it's hopefully I'll be able to put it together soon because I've been doing the weekly blog for about 3
Wonderful.
years now. But it's kind of like being able to pull together what I want to
Yeah.
do and want to
Yeah.
share because it really comes down to I feel like sharing helps all of us remember
Yeah.
our story and the little things that remember as you asked, about let's do this conversation and do the podcast. I go, yeah, I was so excited. And then I thought, yeah, but I need to remember some of the stuff, and then as I started to write, then I would go,
Yeah.
oh, and this and this and this. And it's like it reminds you so much of, and that is so encouraging because all of us have done so many more things that we can even imagine that we've done. And you know that you came to the planet to be here and share
Yeah.
your light and
And
finding the
all
way to
that
do that.
wisdom. Yeah, and just getting the ball rolling. Like you said, once you got that first book written, it's like, oh, there's so much more here. And just when you start either communicating or writing, just starting that sharing process opens this door. And then oh, yeah, there's so much more. It's just starting that sharing process.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so important. Yeah, taking that
Yeah,
first step, the initiatory step,
it is.
really opens the floodgates. And then,
It does. And all you have to do
yeah,
is do it. It's like everybody goes, oh, I can't do that.
yep,
And I go, yeah, you can. You just sit down and start to journal it. Or if you don't even want to write it, then
yeah,
talk it into into
yeah,
your text and write it that way and then
yeah.
print it out, and put it
So
on the
many ways to
page
share.
because everybody has a
Yeah.
story, and it's so important that we do it because we're all in this together, we're all one together, and as we can share it and get that across, then it reminds us, oh, we're gonna all be okay, even though it's craziness, we're moving from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age.
Yeah,
It's okay. It has to be this way. It has to, fall apart
that's
before it
right.
builds back up, kind of thing, to get that altruistic humanitarian
Yeah, we got to
approach to
let the
life.
stuff that isn't that fall apart.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's such a
Yeah,
fun ride, though. Well,
it
I love how
is.
you're
It
doing the
is.
blog to just continue your writing, right? Instead of, okay, I wrote this book, now I'm gonna wait till I got the next book ready. But no, just blogging, just continuing to keep that writing process going, continuing to share. And then as you look back, it's like, oh, I've got a whole other book written.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Now you have to pick which
Right.
ones you want
Maybe
to
you've
do
got
because
several
I think
books
I'm
written.
up to,
And also just how
yeah,
many lives you touch just in
170
that
of them now.
sharing,
It's
right?
like,
And not needing it to be perfect or needing it to be a certain way, but just the consistent practice of sharing too. I know you shared you have a weekly blog, so you share writing every week, and just having that structure and that practice keeps you in present time. I know you shared, oh, I love how this keeps me in present time. I get to look at right now, what am I what am I experiencing that I'm
yes.
writing about? What am I noticing? What am I reading in the world around me that I'm sharing and writing about? And so just writing and sharing and communicating our wisdom as a practice in being present and grounded in the present moment. It's a powerful tool. When we
Well,
share ourselves and our wisdom,
so
we inspire others and we all inspire each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keeps
Yeah.
that joy really real and palpable.
And the amusement going and all of
Yeah.
that stuff. But then it's also so touching because people will contact me and say, your blog has been keeping me alive the
Amazing.
last 2 years. And I just,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it's just like, holy cow, because they've been having
Yeah.
such a hard time. So it's
Yeah.
encouraged them. And, it's one thing when you do a reading, you've been sharing and helping them through whatever challenges they're
Yeah.
going through and giving them tools for that and almost being a spiritual director kind of thing and
Yeah.
helping them in a direction they can go, a solution they can find. But with the blog it's different because you're writing, and I'm writing it according to what's
Yeah.
going on that week. The weeks that I had COVID, it was very
Wow. And you kept
difficult to
writing even
write
through.
it, but it's
Yeah.
staying in present time, right? So it's kind of like looking at, what's working for me and what's not. But when somebody shares that it's changing their
Yeah.
life, and they're really noticing the difference in how they feel, then it's like you realize how
Yeah.
important it is to share. It
Yeah.
really makes a difference to let each other know how we're doing and what's hard and
Yeah.
what isn't and what's easy and what's
Yeah.
fun, where you can always find your joy no matter what's going on in the world.
Yeah. Just how many
You
lives
know?
you're touching without even realizing it. Like you said, in a reading, it's very
Right.
clear I'm communicating with this person. But in a blog, it's so many
Right.
people could be
Right.
reading it that don't even let you know how much they've been touched by it. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
good to hear when that is happening.
So yeah, and I'm sure you're starting to get that
Yeah,
with your
I hope so.
podcast, right?
I hear from people now and then. Yeah. I mean, it's what I'm doing. I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
sharing, I'm just communicating, inviting others to share and communicate.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to recognize that not only are we all in this together, but we all have wisdom and gifts to share in our presence, and just
Yeah.
encouraging people to be
Right.
present and share their light.
Yeah.
We all have that,
Agree.
It's not like just this famous person has it or or this
Right.
podcaster
Right.
has a million views, but no, we all have that wisdom to share, and we can all spark that enthusiasm and inspiration in others just with our presence. So,
And share the soul's
yes,
toolkit along the way. So everybody has
right.
the information to ground or
Yeah, like how
clear
to
their
be present.
space or just stay in present
How
time.
to be present. Your presence is such a gift. It's such an important process of learning how to be fully present. Your soul's toolkit that you share in your book, it's really the map of how to be present. What does that even mean? And, when I say presence, it's like how to really have your soul's presence here in the body. There is a way to do that. No matter how much pain or trauma you've experienced, there's a way to be fully present in this body mind and heal that and recognize how much experience and wisdom you've had as a soul. Bring that here into present time. And so simple and powerful, that soul's toolkit. It's not
It
complex,
is. It is. Thank you for all the people that gave those
right?
tools to
So
us.
grateful for all the teachers. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, all the teachers. What is your favorite thing about doing readings and stuff
Oh,
for
thank you for
people?
asking.
Reading or
Yeah, I love to
podcast
see
or
that light of the soul
which one?
really like spark in the body, like, oh, those aha moments of like, oh yeah, this is simple, right? Because so many times it's that switch from thinking about and analyzing or trying to figure out life. And then all of a sudden this
Yeah.
flip will switch and it's like, oh, I don't have to figure this out. Just be present as a soul. And all of a sudden recognizing how simple that is, how it might not always be easy, right? Because we have a lot of programming about creating more effort and figuring it out. But then it is really simple. And just seeing the difference between those approaches and all of a sudden recognizing, oh, I can just relax and come into my body and allow my soul's wisdom to guide and direct and inspire my next steps and allow that creativity to be leading my life, which is really allowing God to lead your life because that's where all that creativity comes from.
Yes.
But just recognizing that, like,
Yeah.
when that flip switches and someone goes, oh, yay, because there's so much joy, like, oh, that's so much easier. All this struggle and this effort, I could just, just seeing that big is like a huge breath of fresh air and a huge letting go and like a deep soul relaxation. It's
Exactly.
such a joy to
Exactly.
witness that. It's like all of a sudden someone found their freedom and the light
And the
comes on.
light comes on, and you see it like it's almost like above their head
Yeah, like
energetically.
the light comes on in so many
Yeah.
ways, metaphorically and actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's such a
That's so
joy.
cool.
Yeah,
So is that your favorite thing of all the things that you do? Because you
probably.
do
Yeah.
so many things too.
I think so.
Yeah,
Because like
reading. Yeah,
seeing, witnessing joy in another is so joyous for ourselves. It
it
grows
is.
that joy and it grows that freedom.
I think I learn as much from my readings as they
Absolutely.
learn from me.
Yeah,
It's such a gift. I know the whole thing about, you give a healing, you get a
absolutely.
healing stuff, and all of that is really true. Like if you're
Yeah,
sharing and supporting somebody, they're sharing and
absolutely. That's that
supporting you
oneness,
back.
right? When we are
But
healed, we are not healed alone. It
exactly.
goes both ways, all the ways.
Yeah.
Full
Yeah.
circle.
And then it always surprises the heck out of me because, like somebody I've worked with a long time, as a readie, they will share with me an experience and, they're saying words that came out of my mouth 3 years ago
Right.
that they're finally getting in
Yeah.
their beingness of, oh, this, tool, let's say blowing roses to clear their energy and just sitting and
Yeah.
blowing all different color roses and just letting it go boom boom boom, and it's just like they feel so different, and they'll do it standing in line, sitting in the
Yeah.
car, in the traffic, anytime, and it's just like it just changes. You find different ones that
Yeah.
will change your life,
Yeah.
and it's
It's so,
so
yeah. And
encouraging
for
that
me,
they
it's so
can.
exciting. It's like, look at how simple that is. I mean, when we talk about it, it seems kind of silly
Exactly.
just talking about the tool, but when you really experience it and you're doing that, so to speak, you're
Yeah.
letting go of that energy, blowing the roses. Wow, what a profound shift that simple awareness can have.
I know. It's so funny with the scale when Michael Tamara taught the
Okay, yeah.
scale technique of looking at it
Right.
0 to 100%, and when you're
Yeah.
feeling something, right, and just put up a scale and go 0 to 100%. How much of this is me, or how
Right.
much of it is someone else? Getting just that
Simple. Yeah.
little scale and then
Right.
blowing them both up, but getting that little information was so huge for me because I was always
Right.
feeling everybody around me and
Right.
not around me that are,
The whole world, Gail.
Northern
You're feeling.
California or part of the world. Yeah. So it was so powerful. I used to use it like 10 times a day. Wait a minute, this isn't my anger. I'm not angry. I don't have anything to be angry about. And then it would be like, oh, this is my
Right.
brother or whatever. It was amazing. Once you start realizing and using the tools and seeing
Yeah.
the difference that it makes in your life,
So
it's so
powerful.
powerful. And it's so, like you keep saying,
And
it's
it's
so
just so
easy.
simple. Like you said, it's just look at a gauge. 0 to
Yeah.
100. What percentage of
Yeah.
what you're feeling right now, whether it's anger or sadness or whatever it is, how much of that is actually yours, coming from something within you? And how much of that is you feeling on
Exactly.
that clairsentient level a specific person or your whole community or your family or the whole world? Yeah, for an
World.
empath to just
Yeah. Especially
incorporate that
now.
simple tool into their lives it's huge, because when you realize, oh, this is what I'm feeling, I don't have to try to figure it out or solve it in my body anymore. I can just be aware, oh yeah, this person or this community of people or this group of people that I know from work or the whole world right now, this is what they're feeling. Then you have the information and you know that there's not something wrong with you.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
just have the
Yeah.
awareness.
And the amazing thing is once you blow it, release the whole thing, you feel like a different person. It's like, oh, I don't have to
Can't
fix
fix
it.
it
I
anyway.
can't fix it anyway. It's not mine to fix.
It's like just that release, like, oh, there it is. Right. You can have compassion for it and awareness. Yes, these people are feeling this energy or there's this level of suffering going on over here, but it doesn't need to be something that you're trying to solve in your space, in your body, or in your own heart or in your own mind. It's just letting it be and letting it go. Yeah. And it helps the person that you're feeling that emotion from or that pain from, because it gives them that opening, that space to also let it go. Let it go. Back to the when you are healed, you are not healed alone, right? it goes both ways. So you let it go, and
That's
then
right.
it's like an invitation. Hey,
That's
you
right.
too can let
That's
this
right.
go. We don't have to hold on to this.
Exactly.
It's so
Exactly.
helpful. So another one of the
Exactly.
many things that you are doing and creating is a weekly world healing. Is this like a prayer space? Is this how do you offer that, and how does that look for people?
Well, we had a Zoom one, and it all started at the
Yeah.
time of the pandemic. But there's a lot of people around me that kept saying, I know you do that, but isn't there
Yeah.
one that we can do? And I said, well, yeah, let me think about it. And I meditated about it a little bit, and I thought we could do all of us at the same time, where two or more
Yeah.
are gathered kind of thing, where the energy is, and
Yeah.
do it on your own and all at the same time. So it was in May of 2020 that we started
Yeah.
Tuesday mornings at 9 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And I hold space, and I have a couple other
Okay.
teachers that hold space with me to have this. And it seems like we always end up in the
Yes.
Cathedral of the Souls. Which is fun to do it from there with all the other people
Yeah.
and millions of other spirits and the Sun and Master, everybody that's there. And we do it every Tuesday morning, and just kind of holding space and whatever you're guided to do. Like some people
Yeah.
chant, some people pray, some people just meditate and send healing, some people do it, but it all comes to that same place,
Yeah.
and at that same time. And so it's very powerful, and it's become much bigger
Yeah.
than I thought it would ever be, that I know about. And then every time you enter, it's kind of like, wow, look at the amount of people that are here, that are in
Yeah.
body, that are there, and then that are in spirit, and then that are
Right.
used to be here but aren't here anymore.
Yeah.
It's like
All the
millions of
souls that
people. So
join
it's
you in spirit,
a really
that don't have
powerful.
bodies anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then keeping the focus, what is it that
Yeah.
what's being created here at this time with all
Yeah.
these light workers on the planet, and, to keep the focus on the
Yeah.
peace and the love and the joy, and creating what you're wanting to create in the world, no matter
Right.
what the
Yeah,
circus
I
is
love
doing,
that. It's such a
you know.
powerful hello to we are
What?
each creators, right? So what a world healing looks like is not trying to
Right.
fix or solve any of the chaos or mayhem. It's just that
No.
hello to love and joy and peace and what you are creating, right? So it's just really beaming out that
Right.
it's like a synchronized beaming of creative hello to peace.
Yeah, it's fun because usually the master teachers are kind of going, okay,
Yes.
this is kind of the theme today. But it's almost like as soon as you walk in, you feel the theme. Either you're feeling the confusion and the
Yeah.
sadness from the earth and the people, or
Yeah.
humanity, or certain parts of humanity. And then it comes to that really feeling
Yeah.
that loving grace from God that each of us
Yeah.
is given, and
Yeah.
we each can have. It's everybody plugged into
Yeah.
the supreme being. It kind of comes down to
Yeah.
what everybody is guided to do individually, but it works
For
on a
sure.
huge
Yeah.
level, a big level,
Well,
when it's
so
so
many
many
people
people.
gathering and both in body and out of body. Just the amplification of that
Exactly.
power. Like you
Exactly.
said, where two or more are gathered and there's
Yeah,
many souls gathering in that synchronized hello.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's gotten much bigger even in the last couple of years. And it's probably because of
Yeah.
what's going on in the
Yeah.
world and all the changes and stuff. So it's it's very powerful
Just
force
tuning
of
into
light,
that field
basically.
of energy at that moment in whatever way that you can
Yeah.
offer your awareness. That's beautiful.
So it's been really fun, and it's been very educational because you're seeing them all there. And so sometimes it's the same
Yeah.
thing. Who has a body? Who doesn't have a body right now?
Which of these souls has a body right now?
And then you see familiar
Yeah.
faces, and you go, oh, okay, I know
Yeah.
them. They're in a body.
Do you
So,
want to share anything about
so
how
funny.
you experience working with Masters of Wisdom or some of your spirit guides and healing guides in your work? Like, how do you experience that, or maybe kind of demystifying that kind of communication?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I must have been around 12. I kept saying, I want to meet all the
Yeah.
people that are working with me in this life. And I kept saying it over and over and over. And I asking for it, basically, a lot of times when I was going to sleep at night, because I knew a lot of the action was on the astral because there's so much going on. And so I asked, and finally, I had an experience of 7 teachers all sitting in a semicircle, and I'm standing in front of them.
Yeah.
And all kinds of people in
Yeah.
Mary. Oh, it just goes on and on. But it was these 7 masters were saying, we've worked with you and we're working more, and you came to the planet to work with the planet. It's like
Yeah.
you're here to be a part of that. And I always felt that, even as a little
Yeah.
kid, that's how I would pray, as growing up in Science of Mind Church, and which is kind of metaphysical. It was just really interesting because I went, okay, so I can ask for you guys anytime or come forward or whatever. And it's like, no, usually a couple of us are always there, so that's kind of how it all started for me. And it was very reassuring because it came at that time in my life when it was very hard with family and stuff. But it was like very reassuring because it felt like, oh, okay, I have this group that I can say hello to, get information from. And so I was always doing it with God in that sense, quote unquote God. All of them are God, but you know what I mean? We're all God. But it was that of having connection with, them and using that. And I think that really made a big difference for me. And so all I have to do is ask, it's the old ask and, stop and ask and listen and follow what you get.
I love it. Yeah. And a lot of that
to
communication too has to do with being able to match the energy. I think that some folks who feel kind of not clear about their communication with different guides or with masters, some of it is just the energy that when you say hello, there's different frequencies that light up that aren't at the same frequency as the master or the guide that you're communicating with. For example, if you're communicating with a guide that is a high vibration being, that's vibrating at love and joy and enthusiasm. If you've got a lot of fear in your space or doubt or invalidation or, what we would call non-havingness, right? Limits, then that's what you start to experience when you say hello. But if you just keep going, right? Keep saying hello and let those layers of energy release, right? Let go. Keep letting the fear come out. Keep letting the doubt or the invalidation, keep letting it release and keep saying hello till that channel, so to speak, gets clearer, right? Till that communication channel and that space of awareness gets clearer and clearer. Yeah. So it's always a healing because it brings out any energy that isn't in alignment with that frequency and in that communication space. So you get a healing just by saying hello.
Exactly. Like I think working with healing masters, if you have guides that you really do a lot of healing with, I think that really helped. Always helped me as I worked with that when I was in my 20s and stuff, because I think you got to know it more personally. It's like, okay, we're working on the healing. Maybe I was healing myself and somebody else or however. And then I would ask for communication about it. What's the, what's the issue? What's the focus? Where's the, where do I turn? And then once you did that, then it was like, oh, okay. So it was like becoming friends in a sense. It became more personal. And I think if you can get it to that more, then you feel much more secure. It's like talking to your best friend, and they're giving you guidance and support, and you take it with whatever is
still checking
ringing
in
true
with your
for
own
your heart,
truth information meter, so to speak.
Right.
I love that. But I love that about making it familiar, like a close friend. The more you tune into that communication, the more you say hello and create that communication channel, the more familiar that guide or that other soul becomes to you, so that there's just a knowing of their energy signature. Right. And so when it's not them, it's very clear. Oh, I'm not familiar with that energy. That's not that is not the right energy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's a huge piece, because that piece of really owning your space. They always call it owning your space or being senior in your space, like owning your space as though it's you're owning your house or your car or whatever, and once you do that, then everything that enters or tries to come in, that it's very clear. So in other words, it really helps with your certainty. Your certainty really goes up. It makes such a difference, because if you're constantly questioning it, what you want to do at the beginning, as you get your certainty, then that kind of clears off and you go, okay, no, I'm owning my space. And then if there's a whole bunch of people in your space that you're going, okay, everybody out of the pool, this is too many people, get out. It's like, everybody clear out of my space, or you clear out your telepathic channels and, get everybody out of your telepathic channels, at least, and then clear them out of your head and out of your space. So it helps with the certainty and the seniority. It's like you can own it when you can see that it's yours.
Right, and recognize the difference
between else in there.
Your energy and other people's energy. Like you said, with clearing out the telepathic channels. Like, how many times do people not realize that the buzzing in their head, or the headache, or the inability to go to sleep, or or to track their own thoughts? Well, there might just be 400 people talking in your telepathic channels. It's a little busy. It's a little distracting. It's a little full, right? It would feel like a very full head. Yeah, I've experienced that when I'm trying to go to sleep. And usually going to sleep, if I don't have a bunch of energy in my space, going to sleep is not a problem. I'm excited to get to go on the astral. But sometimes it was really buzzy. It's just check in with those telepathic channels and clairaudient channels, and there's a whole conference happening in there. So like you said, out of the pool, okay. Yes. Hang up the phone now. The Zoom call is over. Pick this up another time. Yeah.
And it's funny, because once they start doing it, clearing the channel and looking at it for themselves, it's like the clients are, wow, it makes such a difference. I've been doing, started to do it at least once a week, and it just makes a total difference in how I function, how I think, and even people that have really sensitivities like ADHD and some of those kind of issues.
Huge. It really, I love this hello to those kinds of very common diagnoses or labels that we have today. ADHD is, I think everybody I meet has ADHD. I mean, not to downplay the severe cases, but it's so common now, and how much of that, probably almost all of it, is just highly sensitive psychic people that have a lot of energy in those various channels of either communication, and their creative channels, and their healing channels, and their telepathic channels. And then you can't follow your own thought or your own creative steps, because there's all this other energy. It's like, look at the squirrel. It's like the wires get crossed a million times over. That would make such a huge difference to just clear all of that energy out of all of those spaces in the head, and really experience the stillness and the quiet and the clarity of your own thoughts, your own mental images, your own creative steps. I would like to be able to prescribe that to people. Instead of various medications, which often people feel the need to try because they haven't found a solution, and which I totally understand. But if we could just prescribe clearing out the telepathic channels and the crown chakra, owning your crown chakra makes a big difference, right? How many beings are telling you what to do right now? And would you like to be the one in charge?
Exactly. Or not being in the room, or you're at a party and there's 100 people in the room and you can't even hear yourself think. Another analogy, just go out of the room. You can leave the room and leave them all in that space and just
energetically having a quiet space to think. Right. How much of the experience of ADHD is just energetically being in a room with 500 people and they're all talking at you at the same time? That would be so overwhelming and confusing and difficult to function in. And so if energetically you can just, I love that, because it is so simple. Just leave the room. leave them in that room and claim your own quiet, empty room just for you.
Yeah, your own
Yeah.
space. Yeah, besides the grounding and doing what you just said, it's just like
Yeah.
everything is very simple, like you said. And once you do
Yeah.
it, even if it's
Yeah.
just one thing, if you try it for a week or try it for 2 weeks, you will
Yeah.
see how much your
It
life
is so
changes.
amazing.
That's what's so
Yeah, because it
amazing.
just takes that one
I
tool.
think you
Try the one
shared
tool.
that.
Just try
You
grounding
shared
for
that
a couple
about
weeks.
yours.
Oh, and then,
Yeah.
but wait, there's more. You could also practice just toning your crown chakra or being in the center of your head. So many, yeah, profound, life-changing shifts in awareness that are just, they're so simple and they seem so subtle, and yet the impact is not subtle at all. It's quite profound.
So what was the most impactful one for you when you were
Yeah.
beginning to
I
realize,
think
wow, I'm
grounding, I
very
always think
intuitive
of the
and
story of my early 20s. I was in a lot of resistance to the world, a lot of judgment. I just thought, like, we're not doing this right. Whatever's going on here in society, like, we've got this all wrong. And so, even though I was going through the steps of, what people would consider like what you're supposed to do at that time, I was getting a college degree, and I still thought I was looking at the way that we were doing that, those structures, the academic structures, and I just thought, I wouldn't do it that way. Anyway, there's a lot of judgment about it, and so a lot of resistance. I was still doing it, but I was operating mostly from outside of my body because of all that judgment and resistance. And so just learning how to ground, for me, I went from really having a difficult time functioning in the world to all of a sudden, I've got a new car, a new home, a new job. Everything just lined up as soon as I learned how to ground. And it was just so simple, like, okay, I can do that. You can just ground? Okay. And everything shifted. And of course, each of the tools created, a profound shift. But that one I really remember, just grounding. I went from having a difficult time finding a place to live and having a broken down car, and I didn't really want to get a job, to like it all just lined up. And it was easy, like, oh yeah, okay, I can ground. And then everything just lined up.
timing.
All of the things needed to just function in the
Yeah,
world, because
yeah,
also in that process of grounding, I had to let go of a certain level of judgment of the world. Yeah. So neutrality was huge too, but I
neutral.
don't even think anyone had explained that to me at the time. It was just like I got it that in order to ground, I had to be neutral, because you can't ground from resistance, right? So as a soul, I was like, okay,
Right.
I can be neutral. I can let go of this resistance and just ground. I think, it wasn't like grounding was a new concept. It was just the whole letting myself be here in my body and not resisting or judging the world so much.
Well, I think we're all, when we're so sensitive, it's like we have a tendency, mostly we're
Yeah.
right here instead of in here. And so once you just ground
Yep.
once, you just went, boom, okay, I'm here, I'm
Yeah.
in, I've
Yeah. And then
arrived kind of feeling,
all of that creative power went
So,
to work right
so
away.
powerful.
And yeah. I mean, that was even before I learned like mock-up tools, like
It
creative
manifested
tools.
your
It was
life.
before I even learned all that. So when I learned that, I was like, oh, we're really cooking now. We're really now we're cooking with gas. Yeah, that was the
That's
whole
right.
another step up. But yeah, just grounding, profound. And it's great
Yeah,
to look back on it and just
yeah,
validate the
it's
changes and how profound they were, because I think sometimes we can take it for granted after years and years and years of having these tools. It can seem like, oh, it's just always been this easy. But oh, no, it wasn't. Yeah.
we had to clean
Yeah.
out our space first, and then it got easier. Yeah,
Yeah.
because everybody else was
The first
hanging
time
out in
I
there,
ever
and
got
yeah,
a reading, which I proceeded to forget about for years until someone reminded me that I had a just quick kind of aura reading and healing at the Berkeley Psychic Institute when I was just wandering around Berkeley one day. I don't even live there, but I was visiting, um and I stumbled upon it. I didn't know what it was. I hadn't heard anything about it. And there was like 100 people getting aura healings and readings, and I received one. And I remember the reader wasn't very neutral, but she said to me in a little bit of a judgmental tone, "You're healing like 1,000 people in your aura." She kind of said it like that, like, oh my God. And it was the first time anyone had ever said anything to me about what was going on in my space. So I was just like, oh, is that a bad thing? Fortunately, later I got a lot more, communication and hello about myself as a healer and what that meant, that I was healing a lot of people in my space. But just that first hello was pretty profound. I did proceed to forget about it, I think because of the tone with which it came through. There wasn't enough amusement in there for me because, without the amusement, I wasn't able to let go of that responsibility. But yeah, later I thought, well, I was walking around Berkeley. So apparently I was literally walking around Berkeley. I was just every day walking for miles around the whole town and Oakland. And so it wasn't surprising that I picked up thousands of people's pain. Just sweeping through the city here.
Well, there's no light, beautiful light. Let me just drop my stuff into them.
Can you imagine at the time having no tools, no understanding of grounding or owning my space, how dysfunctional I became? And by dysfunctional, I mean just like difficult to just take care of the basics, like job, house, car, transportation, money for food, all the things, because I was carrying around thousands of people's pain. And so getting that first hello of, you can ground, you can let go of all that energy, it shifted a lot right away.
Wow. That's so
I can
amazing.
still help clean up pain, but I don't have to carry it around.
Incredible. Exactly. Yeah, we can heal and we don't have to be in fix-it mode all the time.
So good. I love hearing about your stories and how you came into this, Gail, and just how many years of experience you have in teaching and reading. We didn't even get to touch upon astrology. There's so much there too. I love that's such a fun tool.
I joke about it because my mom became an astrologer at 15, so I learned it through osmosis.
Great way to learn it. Yeah. Yeah, it was just like
not really
a natural tool.
All of them are. All of them are such helpful tools for reading or getting some answers or just looking at the solution and not the problem always helps too.
Looking at the solution and not the problem. Yeah, what are we creating? Not what are we resisting?
Exactly.
So helpful. Thank you so much, Gail, for communicating with me today. Thank you for your bright hello to everyone.
This has been so fun. Thank you.
Yeah, really enjoyed
Thank
this.
you so much. It's been so much fun.
Yay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today on The Higher Vibe. We will see you next time.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. If you did, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. Share this with friends. Really helps us out, and we really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you next time.